Made
All
it.
right, so I see y'all in the chat. Go ahead and tell us where you are, where you're calling from, and we'll get to your questions as we go through our conversation. So I'll be watching that there. But Jean has some really deep, and I mean deep, questions for me. So get ready for everything shall be revealed in its time, and the time is now, apparently.
Yep.
Um,
This is the day that the Lord has
Uncensored,
made.
and we
Hmm.
shall rejoice and be glad in the vulnerability of it.
Yes, and let yourself be vulnerable at your best. Anyway, I'm super excited. Oh, this is so. Well, the book hits today. Today, the book is out. How do you feel? Congratulations. All those things in
Thank
order.
you.
How
It
you
feels
feeling?
so it feels so weird because yeah, today was the official launch day, which is also my grandfather's birthday, fun fact. But people who ordered the book through bookshop.org were getting it early. So I had
Yes.
a legit panic attack like a couple weeks ago when it came out early because I wasn't ready. So I feel like I already had like the pre anxiety of it coming out. So today it's just like, okay, now it's officially out and we can all celebrate together as we also prepare for the launch party coming up on Saturday. So if you haven't registered yet, please go ahead and register for that.
Go do that. Go do that. I think for me, it's like I know you've gone through all those emotions where it's like, oh yeah, it came out already, people got it. But for me, it's like, man, I never saw this come. Well, later on, and after you told me that I saw it coming, but when I first met you 10 years ago, I didn't think there's gonna be a liberation. It's here like a book coming out. So I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. And we are moguls now, so that's exciting too. But when you were writing this book, first of all, you are representing Zambian girls and Kenyan girls, a whole different culture. Not just It's not just different from you're American and this is Zambia. No, it's like Zambia, Kenya, all in one. It's like, what? Did you ever fear misrepresenting any of the girls when you're writing the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I worked really closely with you and some of the other girls as well, and some other survivor friends of mine to ensure that it was honoring. That was my utmost goal, is to ensure that the stories that I told were honoring, and that it was very clear that these stories were still through my perspective and lens. So in as much as I'm scattering all of these different stories throughout the book, it's really about my journey and my trajectory. And I think I had to come to a realization that I needed to claim that. And I think when I first started writing, that was the most difficult piece of really finding out what is my story in context of yours, because my whole 10 years of work has been dedicated to all of you. And so now that I'm writing a book, not about you, but about me in context of your stories and how that's transformed me, it was a complete perspective shift. And that was really hard to really delve into. What is my story outside of yours, but also what is my story in interconnectedness with yours? And how can I ensure that my language and my storytelling is honoring? And so that's why, like, getting your feedback and some of the other girls' feedback, my staff's feedback, my other African friends and author friends who really understand like the importance of representation of the African continent, like all of that, getting their perspective was really important for me. So yeah, huge shout out to everyone who helped me write this book. Um,
Yeah.
I needed to make sure that I did it as best as I could.
Mm-hmm. And well, now I'm like going back to the time when you were writing and were in Cape Town. I have a problem with you on one thing. Why would carpenter be your favorite thing? Why would, among all meals that could be your favorite?
Explain what Kapenta is to the
Hold
people.
on, wait, hold on. Like, let's get back. So it's tiny, tiny fish. And when you're integrating into a culture, those are the first things that you do. Food. Learn, like, eat their food before anything else, before even understanding their language or maybe their jokes, things like that, which all culminate together and make their culture. The first thing is food. And then
Yeah.
your favorite food is, like, you even wrote it, I don't understand. I don't get it. Why kapenta? Why small fish?
Because
Why?
you hate Capenza, is it?
I do. I think it's
Okay,
great
so
for its purpose. Like it just fills you up. Like that's it. That's good. But
so
favorite.
okay, it's very similar to what we have like Chinese and Japanese snacks. You just eat like the literal dried fish, the capensa or omena in Swahili. You just eat that by itself, like as a snack. So I guess I grew up eating that as a snack as a kid. And so when I came over to both Zambia and Kenya and it served to me, and I'm like, ooh, I know what this is.
I know
It's
this. This
just,
is gonna
yeah,
happen.
I'm just used to eating it as a snack, but today we're going to eat it with Shima. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah. I mean, I think that's the beauty of like learning from all these different cultures, right? Is that there's so many similarities. Like we all eat the same foods, but we might prepare it differently. And that's why it's so fun to like explore about your culture even more so to learn how else can I prepare omena capensa.
So like that's one of the things that was similar in my culture, the Zambian, like as a Bemba woman in Zambia, like as a Zambian person, that's similar to Kenya. You find the food there as well, and now you're saying like in the Chinese culture as well. What was the hardest experience for you, like trying to integrate? So now there's this similarity that's helpful. Yes, you got your food, great, but now it's like okay, was there a certain instance that happened where you're like, oh, okay, this is hard, how do I navigate through this culture? I don't understand it, but like this particular thing is hard for me. What is that one thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? When you're living in context of a different culture, you're in it. You're all the good, the bad, the ugly, all the uncomfortableness of it being different than your upbringing.
Mm.
So I would say the most difficult is, you're gonna laugh, is dancing.
Oh my Jesus.
I
Not
cannot
alone.
dance for the life of me. And like in our culture, that's like bringing attention to yourself. So bringing your attention to yourself in that way is just not considered like a high value in our culture. And so especially like when you have like dance circles, right? And then someone's in the middle and you're like spurring them on,
Oh
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
is
we do that. We
totally
do that all the
anti.
time.
Yeah, but that's like totally anti us, because for us it's like what, like always stay in the background, don't bring attention to yourself, don't be at the forefront. So that's why even like the act of writing this book was really difficult for me, because it's also the act of being in the forefront. So what your culture has really taught me is like you know, true to the title of my book, Liberation is Here, like there's a lot of freedom in dance, there's a lot of freedom in movement, there's a lot of freedom in being out in the forefront and being encouraged by your sisterhood. There's a lot of freedom in expressing yourself in different ways. I personally do not express myself through dance, but to see it expressed through all of you, it's like I can't help myself. So I actually have a part in the book where I was at a wedding and one of the girls invited me to dance, and I was like, I am not going to embarrass myself in public and bring shame to all my ancestors and do that in front of people. But then as time as years moved on and like children would keep inviting me, it's like you can't say no to children. Like I can't say no to children. And so
I
eventually
mean,
it's
with
this
their cute faces, why
expansion.
would you?
I know, and that's why I had to learn. It took years though for me to actually like be okay with acting a fool and looking a fool, attempting to dance in public, not because of bringing attention to myself, but because that's what the culture requires to celebrate. And even though it's not my first go-to to celebrate, I'm learning, right? How can I celebrate in different forms that are different than my own way?
You're so lucky that this is, video, or else would have put that dance to test, So now you're writing this book, and it's like there's so many emotions. I mean, I've seen you for 10 years where there are moments where you're very expressive and you know what you want, and all that stuff, like what's the next thing, it's control, it's like sit. But writing this book is really getting in touch with the emotions that were very uncomfortable for you in moments like where moments that you felt weak, And I've seen you feel like in moments where you feel helpless, but I've seen you mostly in moment like uphold us or a number of times. Like I always see you making sure that we're good and everything is good. But now you have to be in tune with those moments that made you feel helpless, those moments that made you feel weak, because now this is your story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How did you
Yeah.
navigate through those emotions while writing this book?
That's a good question. And it's also a really hard one because it took a lot of digging to even remember. And I think this is where, so the crux of my book is an experience where I was hospitalized from PTSD, secondary PTSD. So even trying to remember what was going on for me during that time was really hard. And that's where I also got to have a better understanding of trauma, right? And like the memory that is broken from trauma. And so it took a very long time for me to actually just sit with it and to try to dig back into my journals. And I'd even like interview, you know, some of my friends that were around me during that time, trying to remember what was happening for me. And trying to kind of reprocess what I had processed in therapy, like by looking back into journals. So that was hard. And at the same time, I couldn't like this is the thing with the creative crisis. You can't always force it. So even if I'm like sitting in front of my computer and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this chapter, especially
Let's do it,
that,
let's do it.
yeah, especially that like chapter of the illness that was like super hard. I couldn't. So I'd have to like bounce around to other chapters, maybe go for a walk, go for a hike, talk to some of you and try to like rekindle my memory and my imagination, and then come to it when it was time. But it's this really like writing is this really weird process where it's kind of a forcing to like fulfill your word count, but also the space to be creative and to let the creativity flow in its time. And it doesn't always come immediately.
I think that was so hard for me to see you like sick ever, because I knew you as Nikole, the strong woman, you know, and you, which you are, and like just seeing you not be, you know, like not be in control of what's going on was really hard for me to watch. It was really like, oh wow, human, and I think
I'm
that
human.
I think that's what when people come into your culture, there's this sense of just feeling, oh yeah, they got it figured out, they're good. You never get to see the moments where it's hard and it's, you know, they're still trying to figure it out as well, and they're going through a hard time. um,
Yeah, that really, I think that experience helped me grow my empathy for the experiences of survivors. And I think that's where I really had to unlearn everything that I knew before in illness to kind of recreate and reimagine how I wanted to lead in the future. Because if I continued to lead in that way, where I was the so-called superwoman, as you thought I was, it wouldn't
I
have
still think
lasted
you are.
long.
I still think you
Oh, thank you, honey. But I'm not. I'm still very human. I think, yeah, everyone has to have that kind of experience, right? Where they're like flat out, everything that they knew before isn't working. And so that's an opportunity to find new ways of living and learning and loving and finding new meaning. And so that really, yeah, I think helped me just kind of align better with the work that I do with all of you, to try to understand and have more empathy. Yeah.
So with my culture, this is, and I think you've noticed it. With my culture, there's this thing where when someone is older than you and they're helping you in one way or the other, you either refer to them as aunt or uncle or mom. So now I started calling your mom, and you're my mom now. Like it's everyone would just refer to you as mom or aunt. Where the first time you ever heard any of us call you mom or call you aunt, did that ever scare you? Did you feel like, oh my god, what? Because it puts you in a certain position. Like, did you ever get scared? Oh
Yeah.
my god, I can't do this anymore. um what were you going through like when that first happened?
Oh, I love that question. So in Chinese culture, you call everyone who's older auntie also, right? So being called
Mm.
auntie, even at a very young age, is very like, that's normal. Auntie this, auntie that, like, you know, we're used to that. But you're right in that the mom level was that's next level, right? And that, like, you were actually the first one who called me mom.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
And just for background information for people that might be joining late, that we didn't introduce ourselves. That I'm Nikole Lim. This is Jean
I
Nangwala,
am
who
Jean. I'm Jean Nangwala. I'm so sorry. I am
she
so sorry.
she was my one of my first scholars in Zambia. So she's known me for 10 years at the very start of the formation to now, and graduated with us. So she's seen me in all my good, the bad, the ugly. So that's what we're kind of going to talk about today. So because, yeah, I was 21, you know, when all of this first started. And when you started calling me mom, it overwhelmed my heart with both honor and responsibility. So now it's like, okay, what do I do with this level of responsibility? And I think I didn't I didn't fully like grasp and understand what it could be. I think initially, right, when you call someone by like an elder, by like mom or auntie or whatever it is, from what I saw, it was a sense of, okay, it's part of the culture. Okay, I accept it. It's part of the culture. I'll get used to it, type of thing.
Mm.
But what it became for a lot of you, right, was something beyond just a calling of a name. It was an actual call into a deeper relationship.
Mm.
And that, you know, till this day is what brings me the most joy and honor of being able to mother so many from different
Aw.
like cultures. And yeah, let me answer a question that came up from Ramal about the role of therapy in my process. So that's a really good question. Um, and my question, I guess, is the role of therapy in the book writing process? Because if so, I was back and forth with different therapists because I was also living all around the world when I was writing the book.
Mm.
So I didn't have therapy as consistently in the writing process. I had it very consistently in my recovering from PTSD. And a lot of that is what actually allowed me to talk about it. I think a lot of times, you know, talking about your trauma needs to be processed in a safe space first before it can be public information. And so processing it first with my therapist and then privately through writing and then now publicly for all of you to learn from, what was a very long trajectory.
Mm. So now you're mothering this like these incredible girls. We are a lot, and we're amazing. Thank you.
Yes, you
Um,
are.
what were some of the mistakes you made while trying to be our support system?
I've made a lot of mistakes. I should ask you that question, huh? What mistakes have I made? So I'll say one. I want you to say something else, maybe.
Uh,
Okay, I think one of them, especially in the beginning, I learned about missions work from a very, you know, white centric, um, traditional missionary mindset. And I grew up doing missions as most Christian teenagers do, you know. And then when I started doing more international documentary work, that's when I realized that what I was doing in like missions work of just going and leaving and going and leaving and then documenting and leaving and then hearing someone's story and leaving, it was actually really insufficient. And so when I started Freely in Hope, it was actually a call into doing more, and doing more beyond capturing a story and documenting it and leaving the story, but actually engaging and helping to build a new story with all of you. That was the call. And so as I started to engage in that, again, I'm coming from this very, yeah, Western mindset, traditional missionary filmmaker, photographer mindset, where I'm coming in to capture the story and
mm,
then you do your thing and I'll do mine to help you. So it was
yeah.
still somewhat separate in that way where it's like, hey, I got to go and fundraise. So most of my time was in the States fundraising for your school fees, not realizing that in that distance and in that separation, the relationship wasn't built as strong as it could have been in the very early stages. And I think that's what really challenged me as time went on of, you know, how do I really engage deeper in relationships more so than just the fundraising piece or the international director piece or the marketing piece or the capturing the story piece? How do I build in the relationships? And that was new for me also because it's my background as a filmmaker. You don't have time to build relationships. You're traveling across the world and you have 2 days to capture 10 stories.
Yeah.
And you're going in and out of people's homes, and the expectation is that they tell you everything, you capture what you can, and you figure it out in post, you know. But now that I'm entering into your story and journeying alongside of you, there's more opportunity and more growth and more room to really learn from each other there. So I would say my mistake in the beginning was not being as intentional with the relational piece because I didn't know how.
Yeah, I'll totally agree on that one because hated the camera. Now I love the camera. Yes, you see me in front of the camera all the time, but I hated the camera like when we first met, and you would want to take a picture because it made sense, like it connected to maybe something that I was saying when we were walking to the market, and I'm like, no, put that camera away, like so it was like, no, I actually just want you to listen to me. And it's like, no, I really want to help you, like this is, so we're gonna do this then because it's gonna lead to the next thing. And I think that's how our relationship was for the first few years. It was, I'm here to help you, and we're gonna do this. So thinking about that, and now that you're running this organization for 10 years and you built relationships with like all of us, what would be your advice for anyone who is working with survivors? And it could be either survivors or not, but like when you're going into a different culture, how do you show up in that different culture? You know, like what would you advise?
Okay, two things that come to mind initially. One is realize that you are not a voice for the voiceless. And in like photography filmmaker terms, we use that term all the time. Like, I'm a photographer, I'm a voice for the voiceless, and I capture stories for people who can't tell their own story. Y'all can tell your own story. You've been. In fact, that's so like inherent to your culture. It's us that we're just trying to figure it out now. That's why we think we have a camera and like all of a sudden we know how to tell a story and we know that we're a storyteller. Okay. Yeah. Reframe. So you are not a voice for the voiceless. The people in communities have their own voices. It's just that they need the opportunities and the platform to speak. And so our role then is to listen. What are the voices telling us to do to collaborate in partnership together with you so that we can really grow in our sense of what's best for our communities, you know? I do believe in this, you know, intercultural relationships can really build deep and meaningful relationships. And also for international development, we might find different solutions that we didn't know before if we have that intercultural connection. However, if the Western perspective, right, it is overriding the voices of the community, then that's not going to work. And so that would be the first one. And then the second one, is I kind of alluded to already, but listen to the voices and actually take the time to build trust within communities so that they even trust you to tell you their vision and their ideas, because that doesn't come automatically. I found even now, 10 years later, I'm still like getting to know you even better, and I'm getting to know our community members better so that we can really work together mutually and do what's best for you. And I think that's always my hope, is that I'm always learning and relearning again, so that we can create what is best.
I think I'm just thinking through, like now that you're talking, and I'm like, in those moments, in as much as it was about us and like making sure we're good and all that stuff, I think we wanted to see you be you. You know, the ugly, the good, the bad, we wanted to know that Nikole is human. You know, like I've already alluded to that. Like she's Superwoman, she still is Superwoman, but you always showed up for us all the time. And culturally, I think most of us are always willing to be like, oh no, we're going to uphold you, you know? And I think you didn't want us to see that at all. Like you didn't want to show us that side for you. So I want to know, when did you let that guard down and say, listen, here I am, fool me, I can cry, I laugh, I get angry, this is Nikole?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Oh, you always yell at me for wanting to cry in public, but I feel like crying. Let's see. I think honestly, it was when I got sick, because that is when I could no longer hide behind the false exterior of Superwoman. I could no longer help and support you because I was literally in the hospital with IV connected to me and I could not move, you know? And so everything that I knew how to do before wasn't working in illness. And even with my like mental state, couldn't even make decisions. Like, I don't know if you remember, but you like literally had to help me put my clothes on at one point because I couldn't even get ready to go to the airport. And so fortunately, actually, I didn't end up going to the airport. I ended up going to the hospital, but I was trying to actually even run from the hospital
Like,
and go to the airport instead
you
to go to
wanted to
Kenya.
go, and we're like, where are you going? You sick? Where
I
are
know. And I couldn't accept the fact that I was sick. That was the hardest part for me, to actually say, oh, I am sick. Oh, my body can no longer sit up or stand up or drink water or keep food down. Like I literally couldn't do anything. And so the fact that all of you had to see me in that state was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. And I think that's where, in that humiliation of being completely depleted of everything that I knew, that's what allowed all of you and your beautiful family to really then support me. And that was really hard for me to like accept at first, but then I had no choice. And so that experience is what I think gave me like the permission to then continue in, okay, this practice of vulnerability. Like, y'all have seen me at my worst. And even, you know, even though I got sick in Zambia, I've been at my worst in Kenya as well. Maybe not with illness, but probably in my false self of being overly controlling, or I say things that I regret, right? I talk a lot about that in the book, where a lot of my language is more violent than I prefer. And so because all of you, because all of you have really seen me at my worst, it's then an opportunity for you to correct me in my worst, which then allows me to learn again and to listen to, okay, what's another way?
This is so funny because, like, well, that's how you communicate and constantly, like,
In anger.
I'm very like, soft, like, talk to me soft, like, tell me what you really mean. And then now I have to learn, like, oh yeah, love can also look like that. Like, yeah, when you're talking, like, you actually just mean, yes, do this. Yelling out of love.
Yes.
It's like completely all right. So now liberation is here. The book is out. I don't know if we have any questions before I keep going.
Yeah, actually, Lindsay had a really great question. How do you ensure that there's mutuality when money is involved? Okay, you can help me answer this one too. So I'll start. In our program development and design, our staff have really all the say in terms of how we spend our money. Yes, budgets are approved by the US because we are the grant making organization, but they recommend to us what's best for the community. And then we always ensure that our program staff are survivors, so that the staff who are survivors have that voice, and so that when they're in connection with the rest of staff who are all local, they can come up with the best possible solution for the community. In addition, in our programs, we have what's called storytelling platforms, and that's where our survivors can design and develop their own program. And so they come up with their own budget, their own program, they pitch us the program and the budget, and we fund it, and they have the autonomy to do what they want with those funds, and always coming back to the organization for accountability. So that's how our programs are designed. What do you think?
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about like the listening part. Like it's so important for you to listen to the survivors, like the people that you're working with, you know. And I saw you do that for us when I was starting my program too, and I've seen the other girls as well. Like when they're starting the program, is there should be an understanding that I live in this community, I live in this culture, I understand this culture. Yes, you come in and you've seen and you've witnessed it. But to be honest, I know what's best more. So I'll pitch in, and you will have to, yes, you talk through with me to see, you know, the logical side. How can this actually work? Like if we put in money. So it's like there has to be clear communication between, you know, the two. Like we just have to really sit down and say, okay, maybe this would work, but maybe not. Like even if you have a great idea, and the survivors tell you, actually, this is not going to work. They stay in that community so they understand better. Then maybe sometimes they even have an idea and they say, oh, we should implement it this way. And it's like, actually, it might not work better. And I saw that happen with us, like the communication part, like it being so clear. The organization is created in such a way where it brings all the girls together. And so when one of the girls was created a program, and I remember just being part of that just as a speaker, because that's what I'm good at. Like I'm good at, I would talk nonstop. That's what I do. But she's really good at like project implementation. It's like, actually know what works for this one and who can we bring in to ensure that we uplift this person's voice. And that's what Freely and Hope does, and I've seen it do like over the years. So did you ever think the girls are going to be like sisterhood, like I feel like I have so many sisters. I was raised with 2 other girls, so our house was already with so many girls, but now it's just more. We're like so much more. I have 18 more sisters and more. Did you ever think that's what the organization is going to turn out to be when you first started?
When I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew
Yep.
is that y'all wanted to go to high school and y'all wanted to go to college. That's all I knew. And as we grew, that's when more dreams started to arise, right? Where a lot of you were saying like, okay, now that we're in school, now we want to be leaders in our community and we want to go into the primary schools and teach about sexual violence prevention, or we want to go to the streets and talk to women in prostitution or whatever it is. And that's when like, then the program started to really evolve out of the community's ideas. So initially, no. Initially, I thought I was just going to help a couple girls go to school, and literally that was it. But as your dreams started to really evolve through your education and through your own sense of healing and your growth and the platforms that we provided to allow your dreams to actually take place, that's when the organization really began to grow and evolve. And I got to see you all like work with each other on implementing your own ideas and to collaborate with each other in different ways. Even getting the girls together for retreats, all of that was, I forgot whose idea, but that was someone's idea. It was not my idea, I'll tell you that. So everything that we do, like if you go to our website, right, and you look at all of our programs, all of those things were because the girls had an idea, the survivors had an idea to pursue it. And I'm just lucky to be able to watch all of it kind of unfold in that way. Yeah.
That's my last question for you. What are your hopes? The book is out. What are your hopes for if a survivor reads this book? Would you want them to learn about support system? Like if you invite people in your world to walk with you through this journey, like what are your hopes like around this book? If me, a survivor, picks it up and reads it, what do you want me to learn or know?
Okay. What I would hope for a survivor to see in the book is examples of themselves, of a larger sisterhood outside of their own context, right? So from Kenya
Mm-hmm.
and Zambia, survivors just like the reader who she can learn from to see that liberation is here, right? And it's actually in you. And that's the whole premise of the book, is that liberation is within the unexpected, within the voices of survivors, within our marginalized communities. And it's already here. It's just, we need to listen to those stories and those voices. So my hope is that survivors who read it will really see an image of themselves through all of your examples, actually, and also recognize that if you can make it, they can make it. If
If you
you
don't make
can,
it, the whole family, we can all
yeah,
familiarize us and make it.
yeah, like we're all in this healing journey together, you know. And you can learn from each other's stories and find strength and beauty and freedom in each other's stories. So that's what I would hope for the survivor. I think for the not person who's not a survivor, because I'm not a survivor of rape, the hope is that as you seek to, whatever it is that you're doing in your vocation, whether you're in business or you're in ministry, or whether you're an educator, or whatever it is that you do, that you can find your role in advocating with survivors, because the statistic, right, is 1 in 3 women are survivors of sexual or domestic worldwide. So that's a third of your female relationships. And for men, it's actually 1/6. So a sixth of your male relationships, a third of your female relationships could be a survivor. And so if you approached your work and your ministry and your life in that lens, like that's my question, like how might you change your
Mm.
language? How might you change your advocacy? How might you change the way you spend your money and the way that you support leaders and politicians and as we're getting ready to vote, and how do we support even churches, right? Because we got a lot of sexual assault in the church too. So how do we ensure that what we do is really uplifting, uplifting the poor and uplifting survivors who deserve all the platforms,
Yeah,
all the resources.
yeah, I've seen you change like your language from when we first started, to now, and how even providing platforms is like so much more like, yeah, let's do it. I will follow your lead. I think it's moved from I'm going to take the lead and I'm going to make sure everybody's fine to actually you take the lead. I am behind being like, let's go. I will support you and I'm here to make sure that when you trip, I'm gonna hold you, but I know you got this. So yeah, I see that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I want to imagine that you are standing on top of my shoulders, because if I could be that foundation and that resource and that support for you, it's you
Mm-hmm.
who's on top of my shoulders, actually seeing a vision beyond me. And so my role is to support that vision, because you can see it. And so if you can see it, because I can't down here, right? How can
Yeah,
we work together to walk toward that vision of supporting survivors, seeing an end to sexual violence, and ensuring that justice is in this place, and that liberation is available to all of us, not just some, but to all of us. So that's
all
my
of us,
ultimate hope.
all of us. Yeah, I'm really so grateful to you and like just feeling hope in general. From the 14-year-old girl who didn't talk too much to the almost 25-year-old who talks nonstop. Um, so yeah, this has been an interesting journey for you, and just to watch you, be where you are right now.
What would you say now? Here am I going back in the interviewer seat. What would you say? Okay, two questions. Two questions. One, what's your favorite part of the book? And then two, how would you say I could continue transforming even more?
Wow. How did this become about my interview? Like it was not supposed to be that
It's
way.
still about the book.
My favorite part, okay, I really, really love poetry and I do love photos, and just the way everything is put together, like with the picture, and then you see poetry that relates to the photos, like that's incredible. But my favorite part is when you were at I think, I don't know if it's City Market, but one of the markets, and how the whole experience was so shocking for you and you didn't understand it. Then you also didn't understand the saloon part, which is like daily life for me. So that was really interesting that you remembered that, and that experience taught you something. And I think we tend to forget how the small parts of people's culture are what teaches us. Not, oh yeah, tell me about your life, tell me about this. Like, not things that people tell you. Yes, they will tell you and you understand. But when you get into a culture and integrate, experiencing those small things, like going to get their hair done, taking their hair out, or eating their food, going to the market to buy things, and having it teach you. I think that was my favorite part, just really knowing that you did learn something through that small experience of, yeah, it's just my hair. It's 4 hours, 5, 6 hours of sitting, yeah, that was one of my favorite parts because I remembered it and I laughed. So that was good. Your second question. What was the second question? You asked me 2 questions.
So as we were talking about how much I've changed in the past 10 years, as you've also changed in the past 10 years, but that's
I
another
got more
interview.
pretty. I got more pretty. Thank you.
That is very true. How would you hope, or how would you challenge me to change and transform even more?
I think that's the thing. It's like the girls are transforming. So the 14-year-old Jean does not exist anymore. Well, she creeps in here and there, but there's a whole different woman who has different dreams. For example, I still knew that I wanted to be in front of the camera, like when I was younger. But now I want to be in front of the camera with many other things. Like the dream has expanded. So it's being open to the fact that the Jean right now is not going to be the Jean 5 years from now, and the girls right now who are part of us, and I'm super excited to meet them, they won't be the same. And so be open to just the fact that, yeah, you will be changing too. So be patient with yourself as you're changing and you're evolving, because we all will be evolving. And I think that's that in itself is a lesson in itself. So it's like it's fine to just say we don't know how it's going to look like next year, but I am open to walking this journey and learning and tripping and making mistakes. And I think for me would be like, Mom, you're gonna make mistakes again, and it's okay, and you will learn and you will move. But when you do, I would hope that you don't tell yourself, I thought I knew better. It's been 10 years. Like, no, you don't know what the 11th year is going to carry. So be okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That means a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank
I don't know
you.
what I said.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that means a lot, because especially in the book, like we all who have read it already, you know of how many mistakes I have made in this work, and how that can either become debilitating, or right, it could be fuel for trying again another day. And that's what I've learned from the strength of the survivors that I'm blessed to observe in their journey is, if y'all could decide to live into another day, to get up, to go to work, to go to school, in some situations, walking to school, taking care of your nieces, taking care of your children, all of that, then I can also try to live into another day in advocacy, and to do what I can as I continue to learn from your voices and your wisdom and your inspiration to keep building this organization, yeah, into what it could be even more. Because your question of like, did I ever imagine that, you know, the girls would be in this space, or that we would have the sisterhood that we do now in our community? No. And at the same time, in another 10 years, will I ever imagine that I'm there? I don't know. We'll have to wait to find out.
We're gonna wait. 20th anniversary. We're gonna see.
We shall see. We shall see where we are, led by all of your audacious and beautiful visions for a new world. So I will forever allow you all to stand on my shoulders, so that you can point the direction that we should be going in the organization, and that I could be as much of a support and foundation for all of your learning and all of your growth for as long as you need me there. And until you all, take it up for yourselves. It's like, yes, that is everything. That's why seeing you all in your positions of leadership wherever you are is the most fulfilling thing for me. So
Yeah. You just went into the interviewer seat like this. God.
I'm so used to it. It's so weird being on the other side.
I know.
Okay.
It's all right. You're doing good. It's fine.
So if there are any other questions, I know my team is on the chat too. They can, if my team could drop in the links for the launch party coming up. So we wanted to give you just today, like, a little precursor to what's going to happen on Saturday. So both of us will be there, obviously, on Saturday for the launch party. I will be talking about some more themes of the book and the juxtapositions of what I've learned in this work with special guests. And Jean will be one of our special guests who will be sharing a brand new song. And I asked to give a teaser, but she said no, because y'all going to have to sign up on Saturday.
You need to sign up. You need to come through.
Okay, so y'all got to sign up for that. There's a few more questions that came in. So as all of you are signing up for that, I'm going to answer some of these questions. Let me just put the link in there for those who haven't registered for the launch party yet. Ramal, hey Ramal. Who is your emotional support system outside of the work? The people you turn to when it's just hard. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
I have a therapist. I have a spiritual director. I have a leadership coach. Yep. I have a leadership coach who's also my auntie, who's also my hairdresser. And hairdressers are like next level therapists. Y'all know that. And I have so many mentors. So if you look at the acknowledgement section on the back of my book, that is like half of the people. I'm sorry, I could not name all of them, but so many people. It really takes a village to raise Nikole. The survivors and the community members tell me how I can lead better. My support system ensures that I'm sustaining my leadership, and ultimately my family as well, my parents who keep me encouraged and accountable to the work. So yeah, it's a large village to raise Nikole. Huh, Jean?
Been there, still there.
Okay, and then we have another question from May Lee. For both of us, what keeps you going with your vision on a daily basis? You go first.
What keeps me, okay. I think for me, getting into advocacy was not belief, really seeing that someone took a chance to advocate for me. And I was a super shy girl now who talks. I think I say this a lot, but someone really believed in the fact that there is more and there's a voice behind this. Like this voice is just waiting to pull through. So for me, what keeps me going is understanding that there's so many other girls just like me who just want me to stand there and say, hey, I got you. And I'm waiting to, when you get here, we're going to walk this road together and you're going to even be better and move, beyond what I ever imagined. So that just keeps me comforted. Like from the only girl in Zambia to 12 girls now. Well, yeah, to 12 girls now. It's like, oh, wow, 12. Yes, let's go. We're bringing, like, liberation is really coming. We're coming for you. All the people that did, like, we're really coming for you. So that's what keeps me going. Just the knowledge that there is better out there because I have seen it happen for me. So it will happen for somebody else.
Yeah. And it's not just 12 in the scholarship program. That 12 has a reach to serve. We have 100 girls in our community, actually, where the 12 are supporting the 100. So that's what's even like so beautiful about this vision that you all have, is that it goes beyond you And I think that's what is so counter Western culture, right? Where the American dream is build your own little thing here and that's it. But moving beyond yourself and imagining what would it look like if your dreams and your support systems aligned with someone else's out there. And it's just this sense of expansiveness that I'm able to observe through all of you. So what keeps me going with my vision on a daily basis is exactly that, like all of you who choose to commit your vocations and your education in support of the next generation of girls who look just like you and who have similar stories to you. Again, because that vision is just it's so big, you know, that's what inspires me. It also challenges me to attempt to keep up. I'm out here running, trying to keep up with, yeah, trying to keep up with everyone's like ideas and visions and dreams. Like I get text messages from my staff and from the girls all the time. Like, what else could we do? I have this new idea. Let's do this. Let's do this. And it's like, yes, I want to do it all. And that's what really keeps me going, because it's a challenge. It's a beautiful challenge. It's a beautiful and inspiring challenge where my dream actually has now expanded beyond what I wanted for myself. Fun fact, I wanted to be a photographer for National Geographic back in the day. Yeah, I did. And so that was a very insular dream, actually. It was like my own success to be on the cover of Nat Geo, right? That's every photographer's dream. For what? For personal ego and gain, right? But as I started to listen to the survivors in the community and their dreams, because it was so expansive and beyond themselves, I knew that I had to partner with it. And so in partnering with that dream, it's become even bigger. And I think that's this new dream that I have now, is allowing and seeing and funding and supporting your own dreams to really come to life. Yeah. My brother Anthony.
I feel like I didn't hear that before. I'm like, that's great.
I tell you every day. You inspire me every day.
Aww.
Okay. And Anthony has a question. Who encouraged you to write a book? I think that was you and a few other girls, right? What I noticed is, so publishers were approaching me years ago, and I was very, very young. And I always declined it because I felt like I didn't have a story, you know? And as time went on, that idea kept coming back, and you and a lot of other girls were like, you need to write your story because you're the one getting on these platforms to speak and to preach and to share and to teach. So therefore, our voices need to be leveraged through your platforms, and people need to provide more support systems like Freely and Hope does, and to allow a survivor-led program and organization to also spring up beyond Freely and Hope, because Freely and Hope is the only thing that they've ever seen. And so that's when I started considering it, because I looked around and I saw, oh yeah, there aren't that many survivor-led organizations. And so how might my failures and successes hopefully be a model for others? And so all of y'all pushed me to do it.
That's great.
Okay, Master's online. Hey, Master.
Hey.
What's your next big aspiration past this book and Freely and Hope's current status? Ooh. So nice. That's a good one. What's next? So I would love to write another book, actually, that's more theory-based with all of you, all of the survivors, to create kind of this like manual for how to, you know, survivors and advocates working together, and how we can provide more opportunities for people who are marginalized, people who've experienced trauma, to be in places of leadership, because we also know that pushing people who've experienced trauma too quickly also might re-exploit or re-traumatize. So it's that very delicate balance, you know, that I think we're all still learning and trying to, figure out how can we still pursue our dream, but also do it in time. And aspiration for Freely and Hope is to grow our survivor leadership model to grow beyond Kenya and Zambia. I would love to see how this works in Asian, Latin American context. Who knows? You know, I think there's a lot to learn from our community in Kenya and Zambia, right? We've learned so much. And if we apply those learnings into new cultural contexts, you know, it's going to adapt and change even more, which I think is the beauty of
Yeah.
what it could be. What's your big hope for Freely and Hope next 10 years?
Oh my God. My big hope, I think I'm still stuck at the 10 years because I was really hoping for it to expand in Zambia. And now that it has, I'm like super excited to meet the girls. And I'm just like, I'm still stuck at wanting to meet the girls. But the more that everyone is writing curriculums now, it's just like, oh wow, this definitely can help someone else from a whole different culture. And I love traveling and I love meeting new people and different cultures. And it's like, this is a problem everywhere. So it's not just in Zambia and in Kenya. So
Yep.
there are more girls out there that need to know that they have a community of sisters. So that's the thing for me. It's like, I had a community that understood me and helped me through. So I would love to see them realize and say, hey, we got you no matter where we are helping you through this. So my hope is just Freely and Hope grows to South Africa and just moves, and if the girls become sisters to a point where you have a connect and network wherever you go in the world, that you know you have someone to rely on. And I think that's always missing when you move to a different culture or country. You just don't know who to trust, but someone who knows you, understands your story, it's easier. So yeah, that's my hope for Freely and Hope to just expand.
The expansiveness of it all. Okay, Anthony has another question. Does the local government there advocate for your program and others like it? Are some of these groups homegrown and or modeling what you've started? So we don't have very close connections with the government. It's been really a very long, drawn out process to get those relationships, but we are working on it. And are some of these groups homegrown or modeling what we've started? So there are tons of groups that are working with the communities. I think my favorite example is just the grandma who's raising 10 children that are not her own, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, that she's just kind of brought in and teaching them the ways. It's so inherent. And that's the thing, like, it's so inherent to these cultures that I've observed, that I've worked in. At the same time, a lot of these more westernized ways of development are counter to what the culture is already doing. And so for me, it's just observing and listening and seeing what's happening on the field in terms of survivor leadership, and how can we even partner alongside of that and support what's already happening. Chelsea, how do you keep from thinking that it is all about you that does the good work ultimately, especially as you have taken such ownership over your work and care so deeply for the girls?
Woo!
How do I keep? Well, Chelsea. Okay, here's an example. So there's an example in my book where I really wanted to seek justice for one of the girls. And I thought, I knew that was the best thing to do, to seek justice at all costs, no matter what. And I will do it. I will put the perpetrator in prison myself if I had to. I've done this a few times, like literally driving by and, but that's another story for another day. So I really wanted to seek justice. Yeah. I really wanted to seek justice for this person, yet she was not ready. And later on, she told me, when I was in that moment of feeling, of just telling the story, all I wanted in that moment was a hug. So here am I, right? Running all around in my car. At the time, I didn't have a car. I was in a bus going around trying to figure things out. Yeah, and I felt that everything, all the responsibility was on me, right? So I think that's definitely the ego of trying to do what I think is best, when actually in the moment, what was best was just to be present to the pain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how I keep from thinking about my ego is my girls who keep me accountable.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like even in moments where it's just like, yeah, this is it. This is it's like, whoa, hard on. Like I think
Yeah.
that that's the importance of creating the relational part with the people you work with. It gives them liberty to even tell you in moments that you forget that maybe I should pace myself or maybe I should ask for advice how to go about this. And so for you, it's we are gonna keep you accountable every single time. So because you built that relationship with us, and that's always helpful in whatever situation. Just having people that will let you know that actually maybe this is not it, or maybe this is the way to go about it, and that it keeps you in check and just really, yeah, helps you
Yeah,
out.
and I think what you said what was really important is the building trust, right? So this is 10 years. Like you and I, 10 years. It took us 10 years to get to where we are today, to be able to talk like this and for her to
Yep.
even tell me when I'm wrong a lot. And building that trust is really essential, because without trust, why should they tell you what they think? Like that's their
Mm.
idea. That's their, they have autonomy over who they want to tell or not. And that's the thing too. Sometimes if someone tells you where you're wrong, you could either listen or you can say, actually, I'm right. And then you do what you want. But when you actually listen and you adapt and you work together, that's what also builds trust. And so you're building trust again, so that the next time and the next time and the next time, the trust continues to evolve, so that there is that mutual calling out and holding to higher accountability. So that again, that mutuality of working together, it doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. And in my book, I talk a lot about that, like just the time and the time and the intentionality and the multitudes of mistakes, but also the multitudes of recorrections, that have allowed us to continue serving where we are now 10 years later. So Anthony says, hashtag Jean Nangwala for government.
I'm on
Actually,
it. Thank you. Thank you.
actually, right? That's kind of,
That's one of the goals.
that's one of the goals, to be in policy building. So that is, yeah, creating new structures and policies to build a better world and to support the poor and support survivors and support women
Yeah.
and their voices.
So
So
I'm gonna
you
take
have
that
our vote.
blessing. Thank you. I would take it.
You have our vote. Anthony votes for you, and I'm sure everyone else on the chat votes for you as well. Kelly's on. Hi, Kelly. The book will be available in South Africa at CUM bookstores, and it should arrive soon. They just put in a bulk order a couple weeks ago. So call your local CUM and ask them which place is going to have it, but it will be available very, very soon. All right. Any closing thoughts to the people?
Closing thoughts. Thoughts of the closing. Well, I don't know why I did that, but I think for me it's just when when you read this book and you read the stories of the girls, and you witness Nikole's journey, I think I'd want everyone who's not a survivor to place yourself in that position of saying, what could I learn from this? And as I move through my work or my ministry, like for myself, and also understanding that you don't have to do it the Nikole way, like you've learned, okay, this is it, but what works for you? Because we want you to be your full self as you work with survivors, because that's what they get. That's the person that will support them through it. And so that's my hope. It's that people will fully be themselves, and as they're helping survivor or work along together with survivors, it's not I'm trying to save you, I'm here to make you better. It's actually let's grow together and be better together, because that's what I've noticed as well. When it was just Nikole helping me, we didn't really connect. Until we were like working together, we grew in our relationship, and now even my ideas, which are sometimes too much and unrealistic, but I'm able to just like let it all out. It's just easier, and you are in a healthy space as the support system, and the survivor will also, and the space you offer the survivor will be safe for them as well. And I think that's my greatest hope, is just mutual safe space. I don't know if that's English, but like just be each other's safe space, the survivor and the advocate.
That's good. Drop the mic right there. So I realized I didn't show you what my book looks like for those who don't know, so let me grab it really quick.
Okay, now I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna.
Okay, now as everyone looks at your face. So here it is. Oh, camera resume. Liberation is here. Is out today. So now if you pre-ordered on Amazon, it should come today. So I think that's exciting. If you want a signed copy, you can order through me and also come to our book launch party to hear more insight stories to the book and also hear Jean's new song dropping on Saturday. So that'll be Saturday, September 26th at 7 Pacific Standard Time. Register. And we also have special goodies that we put in our packages for you. And like I said, every book is individually signed. There it is. And there's also a unique note that I write for every person. So order through me so that you can get your signed copy and also a goodie basket for other things. And this is what the poems that Jean was talking about that's in the book. Full color photos, poems within the book. So it's my attempt to really bring to life and bring to light just all the experiences I've had, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the difficult, through both my narrative, through poetry, and also through images, because I feel like some things are too hard, difficult to speak, right? And so sometimes seeing an image can bring that sense of hope and that sense of joy more readily. So that's my ultimate prayer for this book, is that it will really transcend into all of your lives and help you see that liberation indeed is here within the voices of survivors. And all we need to do is listen and to uplift those voices so that we can see a freer world.
Okay, we see you speak.
All right, so we'll see you all on Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.